Hello and welcome to another edition of the Hitting the Hardwood podcast, your home for all the latest Minnesota Lynx and WNBA news, analysis, and coverage. Thank you for tuning into another episode this week. I'm your host, Mitchell Hansen, and this week I'm really excited to be joined by somebody who I've worked alongside at Winsidr. He's a senior writer at Winsidr, Owen Pence. He's also a co-host along with Myles on Pull Up with Myles and Owen. So go check out that podcast as well. But I've known Owen since I started at Winsidr, even a little bit before then. I've always followed his work on social media, on winsidr.com, elsewhere, wherever else he has had bylines, which has been a lot of different places, and he does a lot of great work. So I've known Owen for a little while, but I've had the pleasure of getting to know him a little bit better while working at Winsidr. And he's a great guy, great writer, great reporter, and somebody who I'm very excited to have on the podcast this week. And we talked a little bit earlier before, it was towards the end of last week. We caught up and talked everything about the WNBA, about the Lynx, kind of where the Lynx are at that point. They at the time were just coming off a win against the Washington Mystics last Wednesday. And then they were going into the weekend where they ended up, pulling off two impressive road wins against New York and Connecticut, going into Tuesday, once again facing Connecticut. But we talked a little bit about where the Lynx are at, following that Washington game, just kind of taking a deep dive into what we've seen, what's gone well for Minnesota, what we talked about Napheesa Collier and her MVP campaign. Obviously, right now, she's currently out with an ankle injury, so hopefully she can get back soon and continue that strong season. But we talked a lot, Owen and I did, about basically everything basketball related, so it was a really fun chat. But before I jump into that, I do want to talk a little bit about this Lynx team. We talked. I just mentioned they won 2 straight games. Well, it's been 3 straight games now going into Tuesday. But they won 2 games back-to-back on the road against 2 of the 3 top teams in the WNBA. First was New York, and then it was Connecticut. And the way they did that, especially without Napheesa Collier in the lineup, was pretty dang impressive. And they played, they did play probably their 2 best games all season. And to do that without Napheesa Collier is impressive for a young rebuilding team, like the Lynx. Obviously they were relying really heavily on the leadership and the veteran presence of Caleb McBride. She's stepped up quite a bit. And you look at the rookie duo of Diamond Miller and Dorky Juhas, they've been playing outstanding. They're just a very steady, consistent group. And they're playing huge roles for Minnesota right now in their rookie campaign. So those 2 have been really impressive. Then you look at somebody like Jess Shepard off the bench. Jess Shepard's been great since she's returned, and she's only getting better as the games move along, which is expected for somebody who is coming off of a lengthy absence. But she's been playing great as well. Ariel Powers came off the bench and had 14 for Minnesota against Connecticut on Sunday. Overall, it's just they're shooting the ball really well, and they just look like a good team. They're a balanced team. And I'm excited to see what it can look like once Napheesa Collier gets back into the mix, and the team hopefully continues on this trend. So they have 2 tough games coming up again against the same opponents they just played. They have Connecticut on Tuesday, and then they have New York again at home this time, but they have New York again on Friday. So busy week this week, but with that said, Owen and I, like I said, we kind of jumped into everything basketball related. We talked a little bit at WNBA at the beginning, talk a little bit about him too, as I traditionally do with my guests, or weekly do with my guests. But then we also, we take a deep dive into the Lynx. We take a deep dive into where they're at right now, where they're going, the players, how they're performing, moving forward, what the Lynx might look like. And so on. So it's a lot of great insight from Owen. He takes a deep dive into everything. So really in-depth stuff here, and I'm like I said, I'm lucky to have him on, or I was lucky to have him on, and I'm thankful he was joining this podcast. Before we jump into that, I apologize. I forgot one more thing. Before we get going with the interview with Owen, I just want to mention our Patreon page. I do this every week on the podcast, but our Patreon page is somewhere where I give exclusive information, give kind of exclusive perks, early access to podcast, ability to make suggestions for a future podcast. You think you have a question you want answered, if you think you have a suggestion that you want to mention to me, please let me know. Send me an email. I want to know, and I allow our patrons to do that at the Hitting Hardwood Patreon community. I also, if they have a future guest they want to hear, they can submit that too. So please join our Patreon community. I try and do exclusive stories every week, exclusive news. You get the newsletter 3 times a week instead of once a week. So there's a lot of exclusive perks, and you get discounts at our Hitting the Hardwood store. So a lot of cool stuff. Go check it out. It's patreon.com/hitting the hardwood. That's patreon.com/hitting the hardwood. All right, now let's jump into the interview with Owen. Owen, how you doing, man? Thank you for joining me.
I am well. How are you, Mitchell?
I'm doing well. How's everything been going with you and in the WNBA season so far?
It's been spectacular. We're recording on Thursday, July 27th, which is a big date. It's a date that Ryan Howard tweeted out over a month ago after the last meeting between the Dream and the Liberty. So today is basically, I was thrilled to be able to record this podcast today because I'm basically just counting down the minutes until 7 o'clock hits and we can watch magic happen on the court.
Yes, absolutely. One thing with the WNBA is there's no shortage of drama. I think Mondays are definitely no games. It seems like there's always drama on Mondays. There's always something going on, but there's no shortage of drama with the players in the WNBA in general.
It's like that meme, like 0 days since the WNBA has been unnecessarily messy, something like
Right,
that.
right.
It's I can't wait. I'm thoroughly excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's kind of start things off with an introduction to you and kind of where people can find your work and everything that you have going on right now.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I guess I'll start with my our podcast, me and Myles Ehrlich, the legend of the New York Liberty beat, and just an all around tremendous person. We have a podcast called Pull Up with Myles and Owen. And the goal it's women's hoops. It is just interviewing people who we really want to talk to, a mix of players, coaches, media. And you can find us anywhere you find your podcasts, I think, unless you find your podcasts in some weird corner of the internet where ours is not there. But Spotify, Apple, all those places you can find us. You can find my written work on winsidr.com. Alongside yours, of course. I just wrote on the Aces last week. I wrote our power rankings this week. And then I freelance elsewhere and I'll always tweet it out when I do. So I'm at Owen Pence. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I've not only you but the rest of the team at Winsidr. I've said this in the past. It's a great group. Like I said, yourself included. A lot of good work, a lot of talented writers, a lot of just really cool people, nice people, and a lot of good stuff that is being done there, and as well as your podcast. I really enjoy listening to your guys' podcast. I'm a regular listener myself, so I like all the guests that you guys have on there, and you and Myles do a great job with that. So it's a lot of great stuff.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, no, the Winsidr team is terrific. We've had a lot of awesome new additions this year who are killing it, written work, social media stuff on these playbacks all around. Just a great team. And yeah, I appreciate it on the podcast. It was something where Myles and I have gotten to know each other in this space over the last few years and, slowly and then quickly realize that we have a ton in common, New York sports and just all this stuff. So we'd go out and get drinks and just chop it up about the W or about the Knicks or really whatever. And we were like, well, why don't we record this and talk to people? And so it's been very natural and been very flattered by the response. So I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, and it was kind of big, or it was important news. I think it was over the off season or leading up into this season. You and Myles kind of got promoted or stepped up to senior writers, which is obviously well deserved and a great expansion. onto what you guys already do. But yeah, so that, maybe if you don't mind, just kind of talk a little bit about that, what that all entails, and kind of those, maybe the extra responsibilities or kind of the expanded role that you guys are now taking on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been cool. I think that the like leadership, if you will, of Winsidr is very fluid. So it's a lot of communication, and no one's really like big timing it. And I think that's been cool. Is just Myles and I talk a lot about the growth of the site and just the WNBA media landscape in general, and we have a lot of ideas. And so, as much as I love writing, writing is my favorite thing to do. It is why I studied journalism. It's why I am where I am right now. We also have had bigger picture ideas, and same with Jasmine and people who are really making this site what it is on a daily basis. Chris with the graphics. So I think that what this promotion to senior writers has entailed is just a lot of discussions with the people I just mentioned, and then also with all of our exceptional writers, social media people, people on playbacks, etc. It is a lot of bigger picture stuff where we are trying to cover this league in the way that it deserves. And some of that means, keeping track of when was the last time we wrote about this team, and okay, we're lacking here. We don't want to just be writing about the Aces and the Liberty. And then other parts of that are, how can we grow? How can we increase our playback audience? How can we build up our Patreon community so that we're bringing subscribers fresh, kind of different content that you might not see on the main site, that's a little looser, it's a little more fun. So it's just been a lot of conversations like that, which are still ongoing, from just a direction of the website, and it's been very rewarding.
Yeah, I probably should mention too, so neither of us get fired, that people should follow Winsidr on playback.tv/Winsidr. Join us throughout the year, and it's a lot of fun being a part of those live streams and those broadcasts, not only for people in the audience, but people on the stage. Whenever I have a chance to go on stage, it's always great to talk hoops with anybody else that's up there. But yeah, anybody can find that on social media. You can check out Winsidr on Twitter, and they're always regularly plugging all of that stuff. So feel free to join those. Those are a lot of fun, and it's a cool way for fans, or just basketball fans in general, who want to watch a game, to not only watch the game but also ask questions and hear commentary throughout. So it's really fun to do that, and I've had a lot of fun in kind of helping the rest of the group kind of grow that over the last year plus. It's a cool new aspect to the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And subscribe to our Patreon too. We've got 3 different tiers now. That was another thing that Myles and I have been working on over the off season and into the season. So the classic refrain, it if you've followed us, for the price of, I can't even do it. I've read it too many times, like a tongue twister now. For less than the price of a cup of coffee a month, come on, you already know what it is. You can support our work. A lot of cool stuff there. We got, kind of fun articles, ranking of the mascots, or just stuff that's not as serious as like breaking down the pick and roll defense of the Washington Mystics or whatever. We have some gambling content on there. Just a hodgepodge, mailbags, just stuff that is coming straight to you, that's exclusive. And if you have the means, if you are able, it helps us a great deal in continuing to do what we do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, everybody go check all of that out. A lot of great work that's not only done on winsidr.com, but behind the scenes in kind of in other aspects too. So make sure to go check all of that stuff out. When it comes to covering the W, we talked about that. What is your favorite part about covering the W? And then do you have maybe a favorite memory or something that maybe stood out to you, as whether it happened early in your career or presently, that happened throughout that time?
Yeah. I could go a number of different ways with this. I think it's going to sound very cliche, very corny, very like writer of me, but it is true that my favorite part of covering the W is the conversations, and the people that we meet. I think that a lot has gotten lost, and like not only am I going to sound like a corny writer, but I'm also going to sound like 85 years old here. But I do think that in social media and just a lot of like the ways in which journalism is just so quick hitting right now, and everyone, our attention spans are split like 10 different ways. I think that just like listening to people has become something that has kind of gotten lost a little bit. Obviously, there's still people listening to each other, but I think that we are all just a little bit frazzled and all over the place right now. And to just talk to someone for 15 minutes and just listen, ask questions, and genuinely be curious, I think has been the most rewarding part of covering the W for me, because when you sit down and listen to people, they are fascinating and they have so much to offer, and they are so engaging. And I think that the players of this league are just great great conversationalists. And that has always been my favorite part of journalism and writing, even before I got into the WNBA space. So anytime I have, and I get nervous before every interview. Like, it does not matter how many of these I've done. I've been doing it for years and years. And I'll always have the butterflies. And then the feeling after the interview and even during it is unmatched, because you're just like, oh yeah, we're all just people. And I do think that has gotten lost. Like, people just become isolated these days, and to like forge genuine connections and just have someone listen to you, or to listen to someone and just talk about whatever. It doesn't have to be basketball, can be basketball. That is always the most rewarding part of it for me. I think, like, in terms of a singular experience, I would say two. One was getting to interview Jackie Young over the phone last year. I have been a huge fan of Jackie Young since she was at Notre Dame. When I was in college at Northeastern, that was a big part of me, like, becoming just an avid fan of women's basketball. And so following those teams and following her career to Las Vegas into the WNBA, I feel like I've been collecting anecdotes and like memories of just watching her as a fan, also as a journalist, for years and years. And then last year seemed like the perfect time to kind of cash in on all of that and really write a deep dive profile on her journey, on her life, and on her career. And so over the course of the first handful of months of the season, I was just in all the Zooms talking to her, and then finally was able to get a one-on-one with her, a little bit before the All-Star break, I believe. And it was just great, because she is just so awesome, so down to earth, really wonderful to talk to, and was so open in that conversation, that I was just, I really, really appreciated that. It was a very cool full circle moment for me, to then get to write that piece. So I would say that would be one thing. And then again, this is very on brand Owen, but I'm just going with two Aces anecdotes here. The second one would have to be being able to cover the Aces winning the title in person. And a lot of it had to do with the whole Jackie thing, like to see her complete that journey and win the title. I'm also a big fan of A'ja Wilson. That is no secret. And to see her kind of complete this narrative arc of being able to finally win a WNBA title, and just the aftermath of that. Like, I think one of my favorite things in reporting is kind of building scenes, and just in a similar in a similar way to what I was talking about with just listening, it's also like just observing, right? It's like, all right, doesn't always have to be like breaking news or like texting people for a scoop or whatever. I love the aftermath of when a team wins a championship, and just like old fashioned like reporter notebook, just taking notes on like little things you see. Natasha Cloud was part of the broadcast team for ESPN during the finals, and she was there in Connecticut. And Kelsey Plum like going up to Natasha Cloud after they win the title, or Bill Laimbeer just kind of roaming around and just being a part of it, and kind of getting to see it through, even though he was no longer the coach, but stepping aside to allow someone who could, take them to greater heights. Jade Lee English, the amazing agent for A'ja Wilson and Chelsea Gray, and now Jackie Young. like working during those moments. Everyone's turning up, everyone's partying. Kelsey's got like she's got the boombox on her shoulder. Everyone is lit, and Jade Lee is like still on the clock, like figuring out travel, like all this stuff. Asia's parents just being so proud and so happy. There were just so many things where I was just like, let me just wander and just see what I can get. And I wasn't even really interviewing anyone for the most part. I was mostly just kind of soaking it all in. That was really, really cool.
Yeah, I kind of echo even the 2017 Lynx run, when they ended up winning the ring that year. Not only was the atmosphere it was at Williams Arena at the University of Minnesota during the playoffs, just because Target Center was under remodeling at the time. But being in that arena, which is still one of the loudest I've ever been in, just being part of that atmosphere is cool. But then, like you said, not only seeing the team win that you're covering is fun, or being a part of, or, whatever, if you're in person, if you're a fan of it, whatever it may be, it's fun to be a part of that. As a journalist, you try not to be, biased towards anything, but when you're covering a team, seeing them win, you kind of get some gratitude out of that, or you kind of, it's fun to be a part of. And, then to go into the locker room, seeing, all the players just let loose, all the coaches let loose, it's a lot of fun to be a part of. And it's kind of a dream for a journalist, just because you, like you said, you get a lot of good stuff, you get a lot of content, but you also just get to experience that joy. And, the players and the coaches, they put in so much work, and just to see all that stuff pay off is really fun to be a part of, regardless of who you cover, who you're a fan of, or whatever that may be. So I can kind of relate to that myself. It's definitely a really cool experience, and something that you won't forget. I still remember that like it was yesterday. So it's definitely a cool thing, that's for sure. When it comes to the season so far, what are your initial thoughts on the season? Is it kind of, as expected, as you thought it might play out, or what do you think so far?
I think that it has been a fascinating season. I would say yes and no in terms of how it's played out. I think that unfortunately injuries have kind of dampened the mood a little bit. Like in terms of teams, I was really excited to watch Washington. I think that Washington is one of those fringe contending teams where we banked on them being healthy, and they've been anything but healthy. And we saw it last night in a great game that we streamed on playback, where Minnesota kind of pulled away in the fourth quarter. It was close the whole game. Washington was livid about the free throw disparity. Ultimately, the difference was that Ariel Atkins and Shakira Austin and Elena Deladon are not healthy, and that puts a lot of pressure on the rest of the team to step up, and they have stepped up. But winning games on the road in this league, as we all know, is very difficult, and they were not able to do that. So I think that injuries have definitely been a bummer. But I would say, like, in terms of expectations and matching them or not, I think that the like big narrative, the whole super team thing, New York, Las Vegas, was kind of a hot button topic in the off season, and something that I think was like, it's become very divisive. Like the teams hate it, the players hate it, a lot of the media hates it now, super teams, whatever. Personally, I'm just kind of like, I'm indifferent. I think that in a way, like bringing casuals in with a super team narrative, I don't think that's harmful. I think there's way more nuance to it, which is why there's been so much pushback. And this is what I'm getting at. And this is what we've seen, is that ultimately it's been kind of a cool lesson in what basketball is at its core, which is that on paper, we looked at these two teams and we were like, damn, these teams, they were basic, Vegas had them very close. They had the Aces slightly ahead as a title favorite going into the season, but it was extremely tight. And I think that kind of matched what everyone thought. We look at these two rosters, like that's 10 all-stars, that's 5 starters on one team who are all-stars and 5 on the other who are all-stars, and a lot of Hall of Fame players on both. And what we've learned, and what is so cool and beautiful about basketball, is that cohesion, camaraderie and reps and years of putting in work alongside one another mean a lot. And we have the New York Liberty, who are the second best team in the league, who are 17-5, which is a franchise best start for them through 22 games. They are second in net rating. By all accounts, this has been an amazing first half for the New York Liberty. And yet, there is a real tangible gap between them and Las Vegas and what Las Vegas has been able to do. And that is because the Aces have played together for years. You know, this is Chelsea Gray's third year on the team, and she is like one of the newer pieces, if we're being real, if we're talking about the core. Kelsey Plum, drafted in 2017. Asia Wilson, drafted in 2018. Jackie Young, drafted in 2019. Even a player like Sid Colson, who's not a part of the rotation, but is a big part of team culture. They have built this over years and years, and we are seeing that borne out on the floor right now. They also, oh, by the way, won the title last year. So they are picking up where they left off. And the result of that is like transcendence. It is historical dominance. They are challenging, and I wrote about this in the piece last week, they are on pace to break or challenge many of the all-time marks of not just like a title team, but like truly the greatest teams ever. And so it's no shade, it's no disrespect to New York. I think this is what basketball is. Even though Stewie and Sloot and a lot of these players might have played overseas or played on Team USA together, it's different in the WNBA. And we're starting to see them hit their stride now. They're starting to look more comfortable. But it takes time. And I think I kind of glossed over, and a lot of people glossed over, like how quickly out of the gate Las Vegas would just be far and away the best team in the league.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I kind of want to go back to you know, you were talking about the super team narrative. I view it as, you know, the Lynx and Sparks, you know, in their heydays, or, you know, even just, you know, maybe 10 years ago, whatever it may be. You know, I view this time almost kind of similar to that, where everybody just had that foregone conclusion that they're just going to meet up in the finals again. And that happened more often than not. But we see that balance out in every league. That balances back out, and you have this for a year or two, but it eventually works itself back out, and something evens back out, or the entire league landscape balances out. So, I mean, you have it every once in a while. It's not sustainable to have a team like that for 10 years or whatever it may be. But I agree. I don't think it's a bad thing. I do also agree that there is a very big gap between the two. But you never know. I mean, all it takes is, you know, meeting you know, hitting a hot streak in, you know, one series. We've seen it over and over again of, you know, a team coming in as a favorite, and they, you know, they fall flat maybe in the second round or whatever it may be. But now I'm not saying Vegas will do that, because Vegas, like you said, is very good. But you know, anybody can beat anybody on any given night. Now, if you can do that over the series, that's another question. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to watch, and I think it will be a foregone conclusion of who we see in the finals. But you never know. A lot can unfold. Injuries happen throughout the rest of the year. Hopefully, everybody stays healthy, but injuries do happen, and you never know what could happen. So it'll be interesting to see it play out. I do think, you know, with Washington, you were talking about that. I came into the year too thinking, you know, they could be a team that could, you know, make a run if they stay healthy. That's the thing we've been saying the last few years. If Washington can stay healthy, well, again, they haven't been able to stay healthy. You know, Dallas is an intriguing team too. They've been playing really well. You know, Arya has them as his bet to win the title. He's hoping he can cash in on that. So we'll see if that ends up playing out. But I mean, there are some teams that are very intriguing in being able to put up a fight against those top two teams. Connecticut, even without Bree Jones, has been able to do really well. Who are, I guess, some of your, you know, serious contenders? Maybe let's start outside of you know, New York and Las Vegas.
Yeah, so it's interesting because Dallas is like the popular pick right now. And it was funny because Connecticut went into Dallas on Tuesday night, and I put a little money on Connecticut because they were an underdog, and I was like, Dallas could very well win this game. And I get it. I'm a huge fan of Dallas. Like, I would love to see them make the finals. Personally, I don't buy it. I do not buy that they are going to make the finals. I think that it's a fun and popular pick right now, and frankly a good one. Like, I'm not saying this is a bad prediction because they have so much talent, and we're seeing, career best seasons from a lot of players on that team. They are very deep, they are very big, they are very versatile, and they are well coached now, which seems to kind of be a change from many of the past handful of seasons. Ultimately, I don't buy that they have the juice to sustain this in the playoffs, and I think that the reason why we're seeing them as a fun title pick is because it's fun. Like, it's fun to root for that, and it's fun to imagine them in the finals, and they could totally do it. It's not fun to pick Connecticut to make the finals, and I hate to feed into whole disrespect, whatever, but like, it's just every year we do this. We're just like, we don't really want to talk about Connecticut because it's not as flashy, it's not as exciting, it's not as fun, and yet why are they underdogs coming into Dallas? Like, they are a better team. I'm sorry, Connecticut is better than Dallas at this moment, and Connecticut has sustained this level of consistent top four team in the league for years and years. And like you said, it doesn't seem to matter what happens. Bree Jones goes down. Bree Jones, one of the best centers in the game. Like, the advanced metrics love her. The eye test, you can see her impact on the game just by watching. Doesn't really matter how you slice it. She is one of the best players in this game. They never seem to lose their stride. The year that they were missing Alyssa Thomas, the year that Jonquel Jones sat out. Now Jonquel gets traded to New York. Like, this team, as long as it has a couple of its key pieces, and right now Alyssa Thomas is that key and DeWanna Bonner is that key, they keep chugging along. So I think if we're excluding Vegas and New York, we have to start with Connecticut, because Connecticut, if we're doing tiers right now, here are the tiers. Tier 1, Aces by themselves. Tier 2, New York and Connecticut by themselves. And then we can talk about the rest of the league. So I love Dallas. Personally, I'm rooting for Dallas, and I could see them making the finals. I don't think that's happening. I think Connecticut has a way better chance to go deep into the playoffs. They have someone who on both ends of the ball is just a force. Like, Alyssa Thomas is an engine unto herself. And DeWanna Bonner is someone who has won a title in this league, who can score at every level, who does not seem to care that she's 35. She's playing some of the best basketball of her career. They also have players like role players who are stepping up, in the absence of Bree Jones. Napheesa Collier had like a really great week. Atlanta, everything's rosy. Won 7 in a row. Connecticut just boom, beats them back-to-back, home and home. Heidemann cooking. Ty Harris, so solid off the bench. Dejanay Carrington. Tip Hayes, one of the better scorers in the league's history. Like, you can go on down the list. This team is deep. They are fierce. They are well coached. And so I think if we're talking about contenders, I think you got to start with Connecticut. That is the first team. That is the team that, to me, most feasibly could knock off one of the top two. And then I also think that Washington is interesting, because if they do get healthy, they might be like a lower seed. And if they don't get Vegas, because whoever gets Vegas, I'm sorry, is losing to Vegas. But if they got someone else, if they got New York, if they got Connecticut, if they're in that 4-5 matchup with Dallas, wherever it falls, Washington could be a very feisty lower seed if they get their pieces back. And I would not be surprised to see them knock someone off.
Mm-hmm. The thing with Connecticut that you were talking about is they're just consistent. They're very consistent, and they build that along as the year goes along. It seems like in the latter, the second half of the year, they build up to the postseason, and then once they get into the postseason, they're like we say, they're kind of an underdog, even though they're not. But they're a very interesting team too. I really wish Bree Jones was healthy. I think a lot of people do, but just to see what they could do this year. Because I do agree that they're a team that will, I think, make a lot of noise and could have made maybe more noise with Bree Jones. But they're still a very talented team, and they, like I said, they seem to ramp it up as the year goes along. So I would probably expect the same thing this year. They're consistently there every year. So it's just a matter of one of these years they're gonna end up breaking through. And it'll be, I can't wait for the postseason to start. I want the regular season to continue, and I want to enjoy the rest of the regular season, but it's almost getting to the point where it's like, okay, we kind of have an idea of what it looks like. Now let's get this playoff picture figured out and get the postseason underway. But it'll be fun to watch. I mean, it's postseason basketball. It's always a joy to watch, and no matter if there's a clear favorite like Las Vegas, it's still gonna be a lot of fun to watch. That's for sure.
It's always electric. And one last note on Connecticut too, before we move on, is I think that it gets lost, like when you are in an era of like truly historically great teams, right? Like you were just talking about 2016, 2017, like Lynx Sparks. And I think that this period we're in right now could bring us back to, those like classic finals. It would be great to get like a back-to-back finals with the same teams. As much as I love all these different teams being in it, both, like you said, the ebbs and flows are always great no matter what. But I do think it gets lost that Connecticut has gone up against some of the greatest teams ever. When Connecticut made the finals in 2019, they faced a Washington Mystics team that had and still has, unless Las Vegas breaks it this year, the greatest offensive rating in WNBA history. And they took them to 5 games. Like they were a game away from knocking off the greatest offense ever. Something goes differently and they could win that year. Now Connecticut is in the era of an Aces team that is one of the greatest teams ever. So sometimes basketball just works like that. You get stuck in an era where you are among some of the greatest talent that has ever played in this league, and it's just tough to break through. And it's not like, oh, they're not clutch, oh, they can't win the big one. It's like, no, they're consistently really great. They're giving themselves chances, and it just hasn't broke their way. And maybe it won't, and that would be a shame, and maybe it will. But it's just to say that like it shouldn't be seen as a failure that they lost in 5 games to the Mystics in 2019, that they lost in 4 to Las Vegas last year, that they lost to that awesome 2021 Chicago Sky team. Sometimes it happens.
Right. Yep, exactly. On kind of, we're talking about, contenders. On the other side of that, the Minnesota Lynx are not a contender this year. I mean, they're improving. They're doing better than what they obviously were at the beginning of the year. But let's be honest, they're not going to be making a deep playoff run this year, and they're still in that transition of trying to ramp back up and rebuild. And we're seeing that throughout the league. I mean, almost the bottom half of the league is going through that right now. What are your thoughts on what we've seen from Minnesota so far, and kind of the ebbs and flows of the season that has been for the Lynx so far?
I'm very excited to talk about Minnesota. I thought you were going to throw me the MV lob. MVP.
Yeah.
Come on.
We'll get to that.
This is the official podcast of MVP. I think it's fun to watch the Lynx not as a contender. I am a massive Napheesa Collier fan, and so I want to see Minnesota get back to contention, and I think it's coming. Because if you have Napheesa Collier and Diamond Miller, and oh, by the way, like probably some decent draft picks in the future, and just the greatest coach of all time still on your side, like you are going to be back in the mix eventually, and they will be there. It is unrealistic to think that you can win 4 titles in 7 years and then still be competitive and make the semifinals and then just like continue to be a contender forever. There has to be some dips, and we're seeing that right now. But it's kind of fun because you don't have the pressure of like, this team needs to win the title right now. We can just watch a lot of young, spectacular players develop. So I think that like my takeaway right now is I love the fight in this team. I love that they kind of get written off and then are all of a sudden now like in a really great spot to not just make the playoffs, but also, like, let's be real, you don't want the 8 seed this year. Like, you don't want to play the Aces in the first round. You want to get someone else. Even if you're not going to win that series, you just have a better shot at it. You got better hope. I think they're putting themselves in a good spot to like contend for 6 or 7, which is really fun. We'll get to Fee. I guess there's some other players I want to shout out. Like, I love a lot of the players on this roster. Jess Shepard has not played a ton of games this year. When she plays, she is so damn good. She is so underappreciated. Another of my faves because of that Notre Dame team with Jackie Young. Jess Shepard is like an offensive hub. She is such a good passer. She is such a good rebounder. Like, in prepping for this podcast, I was, perusing the WNBA.com stats page, and the Lynx are near the bottom in a lot of stats. Like, let's be real. If you look at their net rating, they are outplaying themselves right now in terms of record, which speaks to the coaching, and it speaks to the fight of these players that they are getting the most out of what they have right now. But one thing that they have done really well is crash the defensive glass. Defensive rebounding has been a strength. And you got to look at Dorka, who has come in as a rookie and exceeded expectations, just immediately looked really comfortable. You have to look at Jess Shepard in the 10 or whatever, number of games she's played, has just been a really good rebounder and a really good passer. Those two things do not always go hand in hand. So there's a lot of, even like Milic last night coming in and playing 8, 9, 10 minutes and making the most of that playing time and really impacting the game down the stretch in a way where they were able to pull out a win that they needed. Like, that was a huge game. Napheesa leaves the game with 3 minutes to go, rolls her ankle, which sucked, and I hated it. They then pivoted and said, okay, we have Dorka, we have Shepard, we have Milic, like, we have Diamond Miller. That's the other thing. Like, ultimately, Diamond Miller, the way she is playing since coming back from this injury, has been awesome. I think there was a lot of chatter about, like, how will she adapt to the pros, right? At Maryland, she had like this unstoppable Euro step, this step through, like these little like long stride type of moves that seem to work to perfection. What will she do when defenses know that that's coming? Well, what we're seeing is, like, she's got counters ready. Like, she is showing growth already. It's not easy to do that as a rookie. She is going to be a star in this league. I would bet on her potential 10 times over. We're already seeing it, just like little crafty moves in the post, ways of getting her shot off, little fadeaways, and counters to the defense knowing that her like patented moves are coming. Even the 3-point percentage, it's not good when you look at the number of what it's been over the course of the season, but the last 3 games, knocking down the 3, the shot looks good, the form looks good, the arc looks good, the free throw percentage is good. I just think there's a lot to be excited about on this team, and I know that was an answer that just went in 10 different directions, but I think that kind of embodies how I feel about the Lynx right now. Is like, I could talk about a bunch of different players on this team and get really jazzed by the growth that they're showing and just them kind of working through the hiccups of a long season and starting to figure it out. And I think the future is pretty damn bright.
They're in a really good spot as a rebuilding team. They have the pieces. Like, a lot of times when teams are going through rebuilding phase, like, you could even look at maybe Seattle as an example. You don't really know what direction they're really going to go in. In Minnesota, you can see they have 3-4 pieces in place where if they can get a couple players to surround them, they're going to be pretty dang good, like, right away. And going back to Diamond Miller, I think that part, or that stretch earlier in the year where she sat out with that ankle injury, I think that was really good for her, just to take a step back and watch the game, learn the game, kind of learn more about the X's and O's, and just kind of take a deep breath. And she already experienced it a little bit, take a break, and then come back even better. And that's what we've seen since she's returned. She's, earlier in the year, she tried to do, and Cheryl Reeve mentioned this after the win against Washington on Wednesday night, that Diamond has been able to kind of adapt her game to, okay, what worked in college, maybe that's not going to work in the WNBA. How can I, adjust that, and how can I expand my game beyond that? And that's what we've seen. We've seen her, earlier in the year, she was more of an offensive threat. Now she can do it all. She can pass. She's, play in the post. She can, she can obviously shoot. She can rebound. She can, do a little bit of everything. She has those hustle plays. She's already becoming a good, vocal leader. And that's a great sign as a rookie that's just a little over halfway into her rookie season. And I think it's only going to, continue to grow. And the thing with her too is she wants to learn, she listens, and she's very humble. And that whenever you have that recipe, it's only good things are going to come. I mean, I look at it like Napheesa Collier. They're very similar in the way they handle themselves. And, I asked Diamond after the Wednesday night win that, is the game slowing down? Do you feel more comfortable now, maybe than you did earlier in the year? And she's like, at points, yes. And then at points, I think, okay, what am I doing out here? And she knows that she's not there yet. And a lot of players, once they start finding success in their rookie season, they get, they're very, they kind of get, they settle for where they're at, where she's not going to do that. And yeah, I think, just with her and Fee alone, that's a great pairing to have for, years to come for, whatever direction this team's going to go in. And I think they're in a really great spot. They have a lot of cap space. Like you said, they're, potentially going to be in place for a decent pick, whether that's in a lottery or not, who knows? But, that they're in a situation where they're ready, and you start to actually see a vision. And you start to see what this team is building towards and what they can become, which for the first time in I don't know how many years that we've had that. I mean, during the dynasty run, you just knew what team Minnesota was going to have. And then after that, you didn't know what they were trying to do. They were trying to push their chips in for Sylvia Falls, but there was no clear vision of the direction they were going to go. This year it was kind of a reset almost to figure out what they want to do. And then, this offseason when some contracts come off the books, they'll be ready to kind of strike and make those moves. So they're doing it kind of exactly how you want to do it. And I think that this team could be in a position to make some noise when maybe, the likes of Las Vegas and New York are kind of coming down from that, down from their stretch or their kind of their maybe dynasty or super team era. I don't want to throw out the dynasty phrase just yet, but the kind of the super teams that they have, in place right now. So Minnesota can make some noise. They could be there. Obviously it's not fun going through a rebuilding year, but like you said, everybody goes through it, and that it's just Minnesota's turn to do it right now.
And this is what I said when people were questioning the process and what is Cheryl doing, and this team is aimless and blah 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 blah. Is like, yo, you have Napheesa Collier. Most teams do not. You have Napheesa Collier, you have a future. Like, as long as she is not like actively wanting to dip, and by all indications, I don't care to speculate, whatever. It seems like she really has made great relationships there. If you have Napheesa Collier on your team, that is the future. Like, you don't have superstars of that level and get depressed about, oh, well, this team is no direction, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Like, yo, she is young and she's a superstar. She is right now for me, top 5 MVP, easy MVP. And so it's become like a fun thing to say on Twitter, but like, earnestly, that is where you start. Like, those are the type of players that you build franchises around for years and years and years and enjoy great success. And it all comes down from there. And so then you add a piece like Diamond Miller, and then it's like, oh, dang, now we've got 2 building blocks. Mm-hmm. The future is very bright. But even in the years where, like you said, they were getting the most that they could out of the final Sylvia Fowles years, which, guess what, is fine. Like, she deserved that. And they won, they won many titles. And it is what it is. But I think ultimately, like, Napheesa being back and being this good, that's all you need to hear to know that good things are to come in Minnesota.
Yeah, we talked about MVP. That's kind of my next question. Do There's no questioning or no questioning it at all of the type of season she's having. She's having a great season. She's been the best player on the Lynx, and I think she is in that MVP conversation now. If she's going to win it, I don't know. Just for the fact that Minnesota isn't one of those top teams in the league that we traditionally see an MVP come from. What are your thoughts on her? And you kind of touched on a little bit in what you had just said about her, but do you think she has a legit shot to make MVP or to win MVP, or what do you think it would take for her to kind of get into that conversation a little more?
I don't think she has a legit shot. I think she has a legit case. I don't think she has a legit shot. I mean, also with this ankle injury last night, which I guess we have to see. I haven't seen anything. I wasn't in the post game last night. I don't know if there's a timetable or anything, but the season is so short, and the margins are so thin that, like, if she missed a couple of games, that would hurt her case. I think ultimately, like, it would take some of, like, the greatest play we've ever seen in basketball history to get her into the top tier of this conversation. And it's not because of her, it's because of how good, basically, to me, it's like how good A'ja Wilson has been right now. Which, shout out to the podcast, bring it back, come on, give us the tea. But I think right now I have Napheesa either third or fourth. I have A'ja 1, I have Stewie 2, and then I have Alyssa Thomas and Napheesa right in that 3-4 range, and then I'd have Jackie Young 5th. I think ultimately, if we're talking about, like, does she have a shot at it, it is just too difficult, like you said, to be this much in the middle of the pack unless you are putting up numbers that are, like, have never been seen before. Napheesa has been spectacular, but she's not, like, breaking the scoring record and the assist record and the block record or whatever. I think what it would take would be just like a stretch of 17 games that has never been done before, and Minnesota surging into, like, the top 3 or 4, which I don't see happening just because of this roster. But at the same time, I do not at all hold it against her. I almost think it adds to her case that you have this team that is still very much in a transition phase and has a lot of really good players, as I mentioned. But let's be real, nothing comparing to, like, what Connecticut, what New York, what Las Vegas has on their roster. Her, like, propelling Minnesota into the playoffs, into the 7th spot, into the 6th spot, wherever they end up. That to me is as impressive as Alyssa Thomas powering the Connecticut engine to a top 3 seed, a top 2 seed, wherever they end up. So I think that it's kind of just like, you have to just view it in the context that it's in and go from there. I've never been someone who thinks that you have to be on a top 3 seed to win MVP. If you are, on a team that just stinks, and Minnesota does not stink, don't mistake me here, but let's just say hypothetically you're on a team that stinks and you carry them to the 7 or the 8 seed. Like, that could be as impressive as being on the 1 seed and being the best player on that team, right? It's impossible to like, it's apples and oranges, and you just have to view everything in the context that it's in, as I said. So I think that Minnesota's better than that. They have real talented WNBA players, but I also think that Napheesa is clearly the best player on this team, is just so good, is so efficient, is showing growth in ways that we have wanted to see. There's still even things she could do to get even better, which I have no doubt she will do. Like, what if she gets back to being a 40% 3-point shooter? Like, personally, I think that's coming. And then it's like, there's nothing you can do. Defensively, just so good, so smart. So I think she has a case, but I do not think she really has a realistic shot. And it's mostly just because A'ja Wilson is her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you. I thought, even I kind of made the prediction before the year that I thought she'd inch into that, that MVP conversation. But like you said, I don't think she has a legit shot. Now, especially with the injured ankle, that's going to throw a wrench into everything. Hopefully she's not out long, if at all. But yeah, it didn't look great on Wednesday night when she had to leave the game. She did not look comfortable, and I know she couldn't put a lot of pressure on that ankle. So we'll see how that develops. But I mean, she, like you said, her game has only continued to expand, and that's credit to all of her work over the last year and even the off season and getting herself not only back into shape, but also just honing her game. And she hasn't looked like she's skipped a beat at all. It looks like she honestly just took a year off, and she's back and kind of better than ever. Cheryl Reeve had talked about getting her to focus on the three ball a little bit more and kind of establish that into her game, which Minnesota needs desperately. They need help, shooting from deep. But if she can do that, I agree that she can do just about everything else, and she steps up when the team needs her most, which is what you want your best player to do and one of the top players in the league to do. And I think that maybe, I don't want to say next year, but maybe in the coming years, she's maybe a top 2 candidate for that for MVP. And she's only in her 5th year. You could say that she's only played 4 seasons because she played 4 games last year. I don't even really consider that a year, but she's in her 5th year, and we're already talking about her like this. So I mean, she's unreal. She's always going to be MV, and that's kind of hard to say, MVP. It's easier to type than it is to say.
It's way easier as a hashtag. She'll always be. I've been shouting it from the rooftops since she got drafted. Like it's like people are like surprised. It's like, yo, in her 2nd year, she was one of the 5. In my opinion, in her 2nd year in the bubble, she was one of the 5 best players in the league. Like we have seen this coming. This is not a surprise. Even her rookie season, like she is just different. She's a superstar. I totally agree. Like I would 100% bet on her winning MVP eventually. Like she's just going to get better and better. Yeah, she's unreal.
Yeah. We kind of talked about MVP, but let's maybe make some predictions on the rest of the some of the end of the season awards. Let's start with most improved player. Who do you think is kind of the front runner or the favorite for that?
This might be. I think this is. So I was maybe saying this in our Slack. I don't remember where. Usually I'm not a fan of most improved player because like the goalposts always shift. We always conflate improvement for just like health and availability or going into a better situation. It's so damn hard to just like tangibly talk about improvement and actually boil it down to like a top 3 or a top 5. This year, I'm kind of down for the most improved player conversation because it really does seem like there's some real like excitement in discussing this. So I kind of think this is the most intriguing award, and I'm glad you led with it. I think that if I had to name one player, I would say Jordan Canada. I just love what she's doing. The Sparks are in a really tough spot. They're figuring out a lot of fit issues. They have had some real health and availability misfortune. They are also rebuilding and not trying to contend this year. They very much were very intentional about this when Kurt Miller came in the offseason in saying that like this is going to be a process. Like that we are not going to contend out of the gate. Even though they have some really great players. I think what Jordan Canada has done in terms of like becoming more well-rounded in her game and having just less exploitable flaws and just being really, really good has been extremely fun to watch. So she would get my vote right now. I also think that, Satu Sabali like kind of brings to the forefront the difficulty in this conversation that I was just referencing, right? Like she has undoubtedly improved. Like she is such a hard worker. She has put in the work. She has improved. She is having a career season. She is also healthier than she's ever been. She's also in a better situation in the WNBA than she's ever been. So it's just a lot of factors that are contributing to this growth. But I would say you definitely have to mention her. And then you could just go in like a whole different host of directions. Like it's, sometimes I think like the top players in the league, it's a way more fun to have most improved player be like someone who has made a real leap. But I do also think that it's like, it's just Jackie Young has been in the most improved player discussion every single year of her career. And I think that that's a funny thing. And so I just wanted to mention her because like,
that's who I was going to bring up.
Yeah, like there was a narrative, right, that like because she was drafted number 1 in a draft that, by the way, was loaded and had at number 6 someone who we just talked about for a while, who is an MVP contender. Like Jackie had the overwhelming pressure and expectations of being the number 1 pick. And I think it gets lost in that narrative where before she like made this massive leap last year and became like a lethal 3-point shooter, it got lost that like if you look at her career, she has improved every year, like really, really impressively, and made strides all around in different aspects of her game every single season. The year before she made the leap, 2021, she was talked about as most improved player. Like people forget that. Then last year, obviously, most improved player. Could you go back to back? No, probably not. But I think for my money, the leap that she's made this year is the toughest leap to make. Like it's not easy by any means to make a leap like from, a solid role player, a starter, to like an all-star. Every leap is difficult. But the leap from like all-star to like all W first team MVP candidate, that might be the toughest leap to make. Like it is really rarefied air that she has gotten into this year by being unstoppable. Like just no weaknesses. Whatever you do doesn't matter. She's got a counter. Oh, I'm the best 3-point shooter in the league now, and I'm also like the best guard in the paint from an efficiency standpoint. And oh yeah, I also guard the other team's best perimeter player every year. It's ludicrous. Like Jackie Young, just every year, this should be like the Jackie Young Award because she just improves every year. Is awesome.
Yeah. I wanted to bring up Rookie of the Year. I think that's going to be kind of a foregone conclusion. I think Aaliyah Boston is the slam dunk to taking home that award. So we'll kind of gloss over that one a little bit. Although that's not a knock on Diamond Miller, she's having a great year, but it's Boston's award, I think, to lose. And like you said, I think it's a slam dunk there. How about the best coaching job? Who do you think would take home Coach of the Year? Who's done the best job so far?
This is another really fun one. I just think I'm going to shout out some other people, but my Coach of the Year is Becky Hammon right now. Like, I'm sorry. It's difficult, right? It's like it's chicken or the egg situation. Oh, they have so much talent. It's easier to coach team. Yeah, it's easier to coach Chelsea Gray and Asia Wilson and Jackie Young and Kelsey Plum and Alicia Clark and on and on. Like, it is easier, but it is also not discounting like how damn crisp their actions are, how intentional they are about everything, how they just get the most out of everything. I don't think to me, she's the best coach in the league right now, especially with James Wade going to the NBA. I just think that Becky deserves it, and it would be silly to like discount her because this team is so damn good. Now, that said, she also has a great gig. Like she is someone who is able to just walk in to work every day and coach the best players in the world in this great facility. And so yeah, I get so excited that I almost just cussed, and I apologize. You can see
okay.
it. Like,
you can. Like, that's fine.
I was like, I talk about the aces, and I get excited. But if we're not talking about Becky, a couple people, I think Latricia Trammell in Dallas deserves a lot of credit. Like LT came in there and kind of changed the culture a little bit, and just I think is like bigging these players up in a way that has been really awesome to see. There was a mic'd up clip at the very start of the season where Arike had made some crazy shot and was kind of like, talking her game, and LT was just like affirming everything. It was like, yeah, like you are that.
He's that hype person behind her.
Yeah, and like that's awesome to have in a coach. Like you can be like coach mode, and you can also be like, hype person. And I think like a balance between the two is really awesome. So all credit to LT. I think she would probably be number 2 on my list right now. And then outside of that, there's a lot of people you could shout out that are doing good jobs. Like I think people have like weirdly cooled on Tanisha Wright because like maybe we were talking about this on Playback last night, right? Like the offensive system there might be some weaknesses there, some frustrations. I get that. I see that. I also think defensively, schematically, like they're just so solid. And she is just someone who I think the players just respect and really appreciate. She just has a great balance of like being for the players and also telling the players like when they need to step up. So I would shout her out. Stephanie White is doing a tremendous job. All around the league, I think the coaching has been really solid. I'm sure I'm forgetting someone. But I would say I would say it's Becky, then it's LT, and then maybe Steph White would get my third slot. But I like a lot of what I'm seeing coaching wise around the league.
Let's jump forward to not to skip the rest of the regular season, but let's go into the postseason. Ultimately, who do you think will meet in the finals, and who do you think comes out on top in the end?
Las Vegas, New York, Las Vegas in 4. That's where I'm at with it. I think like I said, I think Connecticut has the best shot at making the finals if it's not one of those two teams. Ultimately, New York has played Connecticut well so far in the regular season, and New York is getting better. New York has more like ceiling still to achieve, right? Like we've seen the last handful of games since the Camp Day loss last week. Was it last week? I think it was last week against Dallas at home. Bad loss for the Liberty out of the All-Star break. Since then, Jonquel Jones just looks healthier. She is playing more confidently. She is able to do more. She has just been awesome on the glass. And just in the interior scoring. I'm really excited to watch her tonight because she has just been killing it. But Laney way more incorporated into the flow of the offense. She's not just being relegated to like spot up shooting duties. They're really like, she is such a good player in so many ways. And not only has she been really efficient from 3 this year, but now she's one of the best cutters in the game. She is so good going left and getting to the hoop. She's good at like sealing people deep in the post and getting off like little post looks, little turnarounds. And she just feels way more like naturally in the flow of the offense right now. Obviously, Sabrina is Sabrina. Stewie is Stewie. They have one of the greatest, if not the greatest, point guard ever. So I think that ultimately I lean New York in that matchup. Going into the finals, if everyone's healthy, I've got Vegas in 4. I think injuries could change that, but we don't want to think about that or just hope that doesn't happen. I think Las Vegas historically, go read about it on Winsidr.com. I wrote about it last week. Like they have a very good chance. They are on pace to be the best team ever in net rating, to surpass the 2000 Houston Comets. They are on pace to surpass the greatest average margin of victory. So many different metrics. They are first in offense. They are first in defense. They could have the greatest winning percentage of all time. They also play New York 4 times in August, including for the Commissioner's Cup. So I think that that actually probably advantages New York a little bit, where like they want those reps more, right? They need those reps more against the best team, and I think they'll figure some things out in those matchups. Ultimately, if Chelsea Gray and A'ja Wilson and Jackie Young and Kelsey Plummer on the court, is just what do you do? Like they just have the edge to me. I think New York is good enough to get a game. I think New York is good enough to push it to 5. New York is good enough to win. Like all of these things are possible. It would not be like an absolute shock if New York won the finals, if Connecticut won the finals. Ultimately, Vegas in 4 seems like the sweet spot. You're gonna steal a game, but like taking 3 off this team if they're playing to their capabilities, I don't see it. They're too damn good. And we saw what Chelsea Gray and A'ja Wilson did in the playoffs last year. Like, you think this is good? You think this is impressive? They have another level to go to. And ultimately, that is the cheat code when you talk about playoff basketball. A'ja is one of the greatest offensive players ever, but her defense, like, is, to me, we haven't talked about defensive player of the year. Like, she's my defensive player of the year back to back. Like, give her all the awards back to back, because what she is doing defensively changes the game dramatically. And then offensively, you've got Chelsea Gray, who, for my money, is the best combination of create my own shot or pass the ball in the game. Like she can get any shot off and be super efficient doing it. And she is also just a truly spectacular passer. And there's just not a lot you can do with that. The Liberty are making real strides. I think they'd be competitive. They could win. Ultimately, like defensively, I don't think they can keep up. And so I'd go Aces over Liberty in 4.
Yeah, I mean, look at the Aces. They've only lost 2 games all year. You're not beating this team 3 times out of 5. You know, I mean, it's just I you there's not enough talent on any team in the league, I don't think, to match that depth, to match that firepower. And yeah, and that's not a knock on anybody. It's just the reality, and Vegas is just a juggernaut. And yeah, I do agree with that. I would agree that I could even see a sweep, but I do think that if it's New York, they're way too talented to not take at least one game. But it's kind of the gentleman's sweep, as people like to call it. But yeah, I think that 4 is probably that's what I would probably go with myself. So
New York, New York feeds off the crowd really well. Like I wouldn't be shocked, honestly, if it was a 4-game series, if it followed the exact format of the finals last year, where Vegas takes care of business in the 2 games at home. One of them very close, one of them maybe not as close. Game 3, a finals game at Barclays Center would be electric. Like we saw last year in the first playoff game that the Liberty hosted at Barclays against Chicago. They lost that game, but it was competitive. And like when New York gets on a run in Barclays Center, that place is going bonkers. And if you think it was good in the first round, if you think it's good, Tuesday night against the Seattle Storm in July, like catch Barclays Center if they get a home WNBA finals game against the Aces. I think that alone, like you could just see Sabrina pulling up from like near half court, and Jonquel like just getting every offensive rebound, and Bonija like hitting a corner 3, and then just has that look like no one can stop us. Like I think that alone would propel them to a win, and maybe more. So I think I would love to see that. But yeah, the Aces are too damn good.
Yeah, I think that's a matchup everybody coming into the year wanted to see, and I think that would be a very, very fun series, as is, like I said, the entire playoffs. Regardless of who's in it, what the matchups are, it's always entertaining. It's always a lot of fun. The regular season is great. It's been fun so far, but we're like I said, we're officially getting to that point where we're all getting ready. So it'll be fun. But well, Owen, I really appreciate you joining. It was a blast to talk basketball, or talk the WNBA, talk about you, talk about the Lynx. It was a really great conversation, and I appreciate you joining. And we'll have to keep harping on that MVP, and we'll live it into existence one day.
Absolutely, yeah. Right back at you, Mitchell. It was a blast. Appreciate you having me on, and hashtag MVP. Come on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, everybody go make sure to check out Owen on social media, on Winsidr. Join us all on playbacks. Check out the podcast, him and Myles, as you mentioned at the beginning, and make sure to go check out his work. So, Owen, thanks again for joining, and we'll have to do it again soon. It was a blast.
Yeah, cheers, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you once again to Owen for joining the podcast this week. Like I said at the beginning of the podcast, Owen is very knowledgeable. He's great. He's somebody that I could just listen to him talk about basketball all day. He just knows the league so well, knows all the teams so well, and it's great insight from him. And like I said, he does a lot of good in-depth stuff. He did on this podcast. He does on his own podcast, Pull Up with Myles and Owen. And he does that, that translate into his written content at Winsidr and elsewhere. So go check him out at Owen Pence on Twitter, and follow all of his work, and join us on our Winsidr playbacks, and interact with Owen, myself, the rest of the team there. A lot of cool stuff happening. So we want to give back to you, the listeners, the readers, and fans, and hopefully you enjoy the content we push out, and including this podcast in offering some insight and a different perspective on things. Before we wrap the podcast up this week, I want to give a shout out to Jeremy Rushing for producing this podcast every week, as I always do. Jeremy's a great guy who does great work in helping produce this podcast. So I'm really appreciative for Jeremy and his work. I also want to give a shout out to our two sponsors, our two partners at Hitting the Hardwood. First one's Homage, and the second one is Better Edge. First, I'll start with Better Edge, BETTOR-edge.com. That's betteredge.com. Go check them out. A lot of really cool stuff to be able to bet on basketball, bet on other sports, bet against other people, compete against other people. I regularly do competitions. You can come compete against me, compete against others, compete against your friends. And it's just a cool avenue to bet on sports, bet on games. And it's a really cool, easy app in a program that they have there. It's very user friendly. And it makes betting very easy and a lot of fun too. And there's what I really like about Better Edge is there's a social kind of a social media aspect to it, or kind of a social tab that you can go to, and you can post on there just kind of like you would on Twitter, on Facebook, whatever it may be. You can post different things there, invite people to your leagues, comment on people's posts and so on. So. It's really cool, really user friendly, and it's a lot of fun to go bet there. I'm somebody who likes to use that quite a bit, and to bet on sports, not only the WNBA, not only basketball, but other sports as well throughout the year. So go check them out. And if you're a first time user, go to betteredge.com. Once again, that's BETTOR edge.com. Go check out betteredge.com/links. Sign up using the promo code LYNX, LYNX, and you'll get a free $20 in free play. So if that persuades you enough to go at least check it out, you get $20 free to play with. So go check that out, betteredge.com/links. Use the promo code LYNX. And then the second one is Homage, like I mentioned. Homage has a lot of really cool vintage clothing, anywhere from T-shirts to shirts to any other gear you can think of. They have there at Homage. That's HOMAGE.com. Go check us out on social media at Hitting Hardwood or at Hitting the Hardwood everywhere else, and go check those links that we have for Homage. And if you buy something through those links, it comes back and supports Hitting the Hardwood. It's mainly for Lynx gear and WNBA gear. There's a lot of cool stuff from logo T-shirts, logo hoodies, WNBA's team specific. And other WNBA gear as well, other shirts, just general logo shirts, logo sweatshirts, a lot of really cool stuff. So go check it out. I can't do it justice just listing some of the things here. There's a lot of really cool stuff, and I've already bought way too much from that website. So go check them out, HOMAGE.com. That's homage.com. Once again, I want to thank you all for joining the podcast this week. Like I said, I really enjoy doing this every week, and I hope you guys enjoy it too. And reach out to me on social media, email me, whatever it may be. If you have any suggestions, feel free to let me know. And go check out our Patreon page, our team, or not our team store, the Hitting the Hardwood store. It's kind of a team store, but Hitting the Hardwood store, and check out a lot of that gear there as well. And anything that you can do or anything you can contribute, I really appreciate it. It helps ensuring the longevity of this podcast and make sure I can continue to do it every week. So thank you for everybody that supports Hitting the Hardwood, supports myself. And we're going to keep this thing going. We're going to keep the season going. Lynx are playing well. Everything's going well right now, and just need to get Napheesa Collier back on the floor and hopefully can continue the season out strong and continue this podcast out strong. So once again, I want to thank you all for listening. I will talk to you guys next week. You have a great week. Thank you.